There's a lot of stigma.
Maybe we should stop judging. Maybe that's
Yes.
what needs to happen. You know,
We
maybe,
should.
Maybe maybe our
Absolutely.
culture, you know, and I'm just speaking right now since we're speaking about black people. Maybe the culture is just too judgmental.
But
Just
what is
let
it based
people
on?
be themselves.
What is it
Well,
based
people
on?
are going to be themselves,
you.
and they have
What
every
is it
right
based
to be.
on? What do you think it's based on?
The Bible.
Of course.
The
it's
Bible.
based on what we
the
were
Bible,
raised
what
on
we
in
were lear- what-
Deuteronomy.
That's right.
You know, it's a sin for a man to lie down with a man like he lies with a woman. And there's so many people still church-based that that's what they base it on. And here's what happened based on our judgments and our stigma. Young kids are put out of their house, young boys are put out of their house when they are found to be having sex with men. And what does that do? That puts them right in the path of becoming infected.
Yes.
Because then they have
right in
to-
the path.
Then
right.
they have to couch surf because they don't have a place to live. They don't have a job. What are they going to do? Or they start having sex for money. And so by putting your child out of your home when you find out their sexual orientation, you are actually putting them in the path to become infected. So you said it, we need to be less judgmental.
We really do. You know, we really do.
And while we're becoming less judgmental, we need to do a lot of other things. Do you know that one of the reasons so many people in the black community gets infected, New York City is doing much better, I have to tell you. And New York State is trying to end the epidemic in New York by 2020.
Are we getting close?
Well, we're getting closer.
Sir.
What does it mean to end the epidemic,
I'm
actually?
so glad
Yep,
you asked
yep,
that. So,
No new
There's-
transmissions?
no, we'll never, I don't think we'll ever get there. It's like TB. How
Right.
long has TB been around? For centuries and centuries and centuries. But if fewer people get infected and brought into the epidemic, then leave it or don't enter it, that's ending the epidemic. And then it becomes
It's like
what's
zero
called-
population growth.
Yeah.
And then it's
kind of,
called
yeah.
endemic.
Endemic.
And I think San Francisco is a city that's already endemic. And if we can do it with babies when people didn't think we could. You know, in New York City now, there's either 0 or 1 baby a year that's born infected to mothers who are
But what
infected.
about the growth in the elderly population? Is that still something that's happening where older people are contracting AIDS?
The answer is yes, they're contracting HIV.
Yes,
And by the time they get diagnosed, they often have AIDS. And that's because the young doctors that people go to and the clinics and whatever look at you and think you don't have sex. And so,
You don't have sex anymore.
So what I'm getting from a lot of this, I'm hearing about bias, I'm hearing about judgment, I'm hearing
stigma.
about like stigma, about not believing people. So, and I feel
lot
like
of
this happens in a lot of
did you
things
say?
that happened in the medical field. I mean, how do we know, so you're talking a lot about what people can do to change behavior. What also can we do to make professionals more receptive to patients?
well, you know, I'll give you one example of cholesterol. When cholesterol came out as something that was bad for you, there were 2 initiatives that made it a household word. There was demand from the patient, I want to know my cholesterol. And there was demand from the doctor, I want you to get a cholesterol test. And we need to do that with HIV. Every person who goes to get a physical, who enters the healthcare system, should be offered an HIV test.
And
And
what
we
would be
did-
the reason to decline it, other than the denial or stigma? But I mean, if it were mandatory, it's like
We can't mandatory.
You can't make
You
it mandatory.
can't.
Even with
Right.
women who are pregnant.
Right.
Have any of you heard of the baby AIDS bill?
No,
No.
I have not.
One of the things that I'm proudest of in my career, Nettie, wherever you are, thank you. There was an assemblywoman that put forth the baby AIDS bill. And the baby AIDS bill said, we want to test all mothers who are pregnant for HIV. We want to educate them first. We want to offer them a test. If they refuse a test and we don't know the status of a baby when it's born, then we can test the baby without anybody's consent once it's born. I want to tell you, almost every organization in New York State fought against it. Nettie and I worked on it 24/7. I went to see every legislator or their chief of staff in New York State. And while I couldn't get the Black and Latino legislators to sign on, I got everybody else to sign on. And Nettie and I were able, with less than a handful of other people, to get it passed. As a result of that, women were offered a test, firstly education, then a test while they were pregnant, then a test in the third trimester, because just because you're negative when you get pregnant doesn't mean you're gonna stay negative. And if you refuse the test, when the baby is born, the baby gets tested. Because now they can put babies on medication, the antiretrovirals, to maybe keep them from going on to be, to have HIV AIDS, because they get them early enough.
Right.
It has worked in New York State. It is such, we are down to 1 or 2 or 3 for the state of New York because of that and many other other things.
I wonder why it's not being replicated in states like Mississippi or in Washington, D.C. Meaning, again, where 1 in 7 men is infected by HIV.
1 in 7 men or 1 in 7 black men?
I meant black men. Yes, I'm sorry.
And I
mean,
don't
that's
know.
just too many.
I
And
think-
this is just something that I read in terms of research. I'm hoping that what I'm saying is true. I read it in the Times, but
I don't know if it's that they're
or is it gay men?
infected.
I don't know. Right.
Men who have sex with men, you mean?
Oh, sorry. Yes.
I don't know if it's 1 in 7 are already infected or in their lifetime they're projected to be infected based on the projections. Because once it's common in the community,
That sounds like it's common to me.
it's not that you have any more sex or any more partners than anyone else.
It's just in your sex network.
It's just in your
Right.
sexual network, and people have sex with people that look like them generally, except for sex workers who have sex with anybody for money. And then if there's 14 people in your network and more than half of them are infected, it means when you have sex with almost anybody, you're gonna get infected. That's why my book,
I was getting ready to plug that. Condoms. Don't condoms stop transmission, so to speak, to a degree?
you know, there's something that stops it even more.
What, abstinence?
That's right.
Yeah,
Number 1 is abstinence, but number 2 is PrEP. Do you know about PrEP?
No, tell us about PrEP.
You know, it's like
I
a
read about
toolbox.
PrEP,
Let me
right.
tell you, it's a toolbox.
Okay, let's talk
of
about PrEP.
prevention.
Right.
And the toolbox of prevention has many things in it, including abstinence. I know women who are abstinent.
Yes, right, yes.
I don't know about men, but I know a lot of women who are abstinent. There's condoms. Condoms used consistently reduces the chances of you becoming infected. And it only takes one person to be safe. One person. You can say, I'm not having sex with you because you won't wear a condom. There is PrEP, pre-exposure prophylaxis, where you can take 1 pill a day and decrease your chances of becoming infected by over 97%.
You just take, this is like a
morning.
No,
it's not even
quite
a morning after. It's
Better than a morning after.
It's like a birth control.
It's a birth control pill, except you just need one.
It's a birth control pill. No, 1 a day.
Huh.
For 3?
1 a day.
For how long?
As long as you're out there.
Doing, yeah.
And it keeps, and it's like a protection, it's a force field.
That's
A
right.
force field.
It's really, if you take it consistently, and guess who's not taking it?
The ones who are catching it.
The ones who need it most.
Yeah.
So
Is
they're
it
doing
because
that.
of cost?
I'm glad you asked that.
Yeah, it doesn't cost a lot?
Yeah,
Yeah.
costs $1,500 a month. But wait, insurance companies have to pay
That's
for
a
it.
lot of money.
It's not a lot when you consider how much it is to
Insurance
change
companies have to pay for it.
Insurance companies pay for it.
But for
Okay.
anybody or anyone who's in a particular risk profile?
If your physician orders it, they have to pay for it. Now, here's the story. Just listen to this story for a second. They're doing a study in Atlanta. And in this study, you know, Atlanta is a hotbed of
Yes.
men who have sex with men that, we don't all know about. And if you carry condoms, that means you're planning to do it. So you don't carry condoms because you're in denial. But they're doing this study, and it just came out in a circulation of infectious diseases today. About 14 men in this study who've already converted from HIV negative to HIV positive. Why? I travel a lot and forget to take it with me, even though they gave them key rings that had some supply in it. 5 were in complete denial, I don't want to take it. another 5 were in a state called pre-contemplation, where you're thinking,
Contemplation. Okay.
where
So
you're
you're still
thinking about whether you want to do it or
Right.
not. So, and then a couple of others would forget and whatever reason. Here you are getting free medication, somebody to talk to you about the side effects, somebody to work with you, to work through your
Even
problems.
if you don't have health insurance, it's free. The state will give it.
I'm talking about this study right this minute.
study, I see.
But in New York State, you can
Oh.
get PrEP
You can get PrEP.
on Medicaid.
Wow.
Wow.
Okay.
Well, that's very smart in New York State.
It is.
Yeah, it's very smart.
When you think of
yeah.
how much it costs
once
to
people
get
treat it.
infected.
And then the societal cost. I mean, it's just.
But it also seems to me, going back to where you started, we hear about it's not top of mind or top
Right.
of news cycle.
That's-
And I feel like the one thing that really worked back during the beginnings of the AIDS crisis was like ACT UP and Grand Fury bringing all that attention in New York City. You know, kissing doesn't kill, greed and indifference do, and all of those slogans that came out to get the drug companies to actually pay attention.
Well, one last thing is PEP, post-exposure prophylaxis. And that's when you have a condom on, it breaks, and you think your partner, you don't know their status or you know that they're infected, discordant couples they're called, and you could go within the first 72 hours, get the antiretroviral, and it'll keep you many times, if you get it, the earlier you get it, the better, from seroconverting. So the toolbox is out there.
But do people know about it? Because I
Well,
didn't
they know
about
it now. They're going to know about it now.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, we're going to have to wrap. But now, Brooklyn, you know about it, and tell everybody you know about it. Right? Everybody you know about
Thank
it.
you for that.
I want to just thank you, Dr. Sweeney, for just giving us this great information. This is
And for all your work.
and this is going to
Yes.
save lives.
Absolutely.
This is going to
That's-
save lives.
that's what you're doing.
Absolutely.
Exactly. So
That's what
thank
you do.
you again. And I know Brooklyn, follow Dr. Sweeney's advice. We will see you next time on Brooklyn Savvy. This program is brought to you by Verizon and Investors Bank.